Good morning, everybody. Well, it's just coming to the afternoon, and we have a visitor with us who may be. Nothing is ordinary, is it, in spiritualist circles? And I'll talk to you about how we overcome adversity. Oh, this is a good one, isn't it? The problem is that we have actually all been told by the Prime Minister that we are just about to embark on another lockdown. And this has so many ramifications for so many people. And I thought, how do we overcome adversity? How do we get over this? And I now have another dog in here as well. And we have Kathy joining us. Right. I'm sorry for the interruption. So pardon the interruption, as the old BBC programme was. Now, I suppose it doesn't do to be over serious, but on the other hand, you know, given the enormity of the problems that are facing the world at the moment, I thought, how do we all get over this? So I called this talk, How Do We Overcome Adversity and Making the Best of It? Or how can we make the best of anything that's so awful? Well, I thought this, that we're all affected by the many bad things that assail us in our lives. And now we have yet another lockdown scenario in the UK. How can we overcome negativity? How do we survive and grow stronger with every blow? And let me begin by saying that there's no doubt that we all have a good measure of suffering doled out to us with our birth into this physical world. And not only are we born with myriad afflictions from within our DNA and our genetic makeup that can either lay dormant for some time, lengthy or short at random, or never surface at all, or can make themselves apparent from the first breath. But we can be injured from without, also from birth. Or as we make our journey through life with its various twists and turns that can put us in harm's way. Harm that can be attributable to other human beings' actions or the living conditions and situations we can find ourselves in. And here I must mention the harm that we are perceived to bring upon ourselves. And in this pejorative categorization, we must place drug and alcohol addiction, as well as domestic violence and food intake disorder, amongst others. Obviously, as people who are spiritually minded in essence, none of us would consider that last category of fellow human beings to have brought their suffering on themselves. And many of us, including me, have been able to tick one or more boxes of the conditions that I listed. Which brings me to the nub of my conversation with you. How have we, each of us, been able to overcome our own sufferings, grown stronger and been able to move ahead in life and perhaps help many others as a result? And how can we all apply whatever suffering we've endured and from which we've recovered some equilibrium to helping others to do the same? Well, hundreds of thousands of human beings who have thought themselves immune from the difficulties they've witnessed others go through in the past, maybe not having had the kind of experience that would perhaps mellow their attitudes due to the virus identified as COVID-19, are now in trouble themselves. One thing is sure, we are all in this together, regardless of past history, personal or in general, and whether we've been bad or good, or all points in between. I believe that our spiritualist way of life, our knowledge, holds the key. Apart from the sometimes helpful platitudes expounded by all religious and spiritual and, dare I say, humanist or atheistic people trying to do good unto others, commendably, our practices, denigrated as they have always been by orthodoxies of every kind, help us and others the most. Take this morning, for instance. Kathy came in and said she'd asked for a message from her book of God Calling. And she'd randomly opened it, having asked friends in spirit. And she said to me, and this is the message that I got. I said, oh, thank you for reading me that. And I'm going to read it to you. And it's called Miracles Again. Wait to hear my will and then obey. At all costs, obey. Do not fear. I am a wall of protection around you. See this. To see this with the eyes of faith is to cause it to manifest in the material. Remember, I long to work miracles, as when on earth I wrought them. But the same condition holds good. I cannot do many mighty works because of unbelief. So only in response to your belief can I do miracle works now. So how lovely. And as Kathy said, she didn't know what I was going to talk about. And this is something that she got. And she asked if I'd like to hear it. And of course I would. And I've passed that on to you. And the fact is, you see, that with all the information that is coming at us from the media, from our newspapers, from people in the street, from notices in public, everywhere. And everybody, of course, has their opinion. And lots of it descends into political infighting and argument that really doesn't do anybody any good. The fact is that the world is at risk from this dreadful virus, and it affects people in many different ways. Even if you don't actually have it yourself, or if you've had it and got over it, you still have all this negative information cramming the ether. And what we know is that all negative impulses that are put out there have a negative effect on human life. Bless them, the animals are fairly immune from that. Although, of course, as we know, our pets are always tuned in to our feelings. But at the same time, they don't have that power to reason that sometimes is a curse as well as a blessing for us. Because we can see all these signals that come into us telling us how dreadful everything is, get mixed up, and we think about it all. And it just makes us feel more and more uncomfortable and unhappy with the situation. So how can we get out of this? It's a sort of cycle, isn't it, of feeling bad about things. And as I mentioned before, you know, all of us have had experience of overcoming bad things. We wouldn't be sitting here now, you know, you listening to me and me talking to you. But what I know is that our spiritualist practices really, really help. Just wonderful. We know that we are spirit within our physical bodies. We know that when we've finished with our physical bodies, we continue to be spirit individuals, and that we pass on to the spirit dimensions. And that is where we get our help. Our help comes from that world of spirit. It's wonderful. You know, that verse, that little message that I gave you, that Kathy was given and was able to give to me for me to give to you, is as a direct result of Kathy knowing that if you ask, and you ask in good faith for a message, and you open a good book, for instance, this one, I'll show you which one it is. There, it's called it's called God Calling. It's a devotional diary and edited by A.J. Russell a very long time ago. And it was two women who wished to remain anonymous all their life. who kept a diary of the messages that they were given, and they believed them to be given to them by Jesus. And very often, you know, as you read through those messages in their book, it would seem to be the truth. And it's actually published by published in Great Britain, first published 1935. So it's really a wonderful thing. Publishers note hard to assess the impact of God calling over the 70 or so years it's been in print. For most of that time, it was in the public domain in the USA, of course, God bless America. And that, of course, is where Spiritualism started. And it has undoubtedly been influential in many lives. Well, you know, the thing is that, you know, it says it's one of the best devotional books of all time. And of course, you have to put away from yourself as well prejudice against spiritualism and spirit. That's a must. And of course, those of us who are joined here today together, we can say that we're of like mind, can't we? So the thing is that I believe that by telling people, don't be shy. If people are troubled or you think they might be, you know, tell them that, you know, oh, there's a good way of being cheered up, you know, whatever. And you look in a good book, and, you know, as I always say, sometimes it's not so good to look in the Bible because you get all sorts of things in there. But of course, if you've got even the Psalms, some of them are a little bit iffy, I would say. Well, David was a warrior king, wasn't he? So I suppose it's to be expected. It's sort of the equivalent, I suppose, of Motorhead. The difference between Motorhead and, say, the Carpenters. There you are. That's showing my age. But no, the thing is this, that we also have practices that help, like meditation. And I'm not talking about other people's kind of meditation or mindfulness or whatever. I'm talking about spiritualist meditations. I'm talking about being guided by those who love us in the world of spirit to take our minds away from the here and now and give us some respite and some relaxation and some spiritual input, where we can perhaps, you know, go to a lovely place in our mind's eye. And of course, as spiritualists, we know that these places actually do exist. You know, these wonderful halls of learning over on the spirit side of life, these wonderful healing caves, these wonderful, beautiful beaches, these wonderful landscapes. They're all there in what other people might call heaven. We call it the spirit world. And we are able to go there in our mind's eye, even while we're still here in the body, and enjoy some time with our spiritual self. And this has a wonderful beneficial effect. If you are stressed, if things are really getting to you, why not find some little space? And if you're a very busy person, as you know, perhaps with a young family, you don't have any space really. I always used to find the bathroom was a place of refuge. And you know, just take yourself somewhere quiet, just for those 5 minutes, and perhaps take a nice little book with you. If you have a little hymn book, I must say also we have, of course, the Spiritualist hymn book. The New Christian Spiritualist Society, we have a book that you can get online. You can go to Amazon and get it. It's very cheap. And it has lovely words in it. And you can go and find your quiet space away from the hurly-burly of life, and sit quietly and just close your eyes and say, "Dear God, dear angels." You can ask also for loved ones who have passed over to help you, because they will as well. You know, dear John, dear Mary, dear Auntie, dear Dad, dear Mum, you know, dear Granddad. Ask them to come close and give you something that would be nice for you to have to look at. And then open your book. And the first thing that you see, you'll get your message. If you don't want to do that, you can sit quietly and do the same asking, and sit quietly and think to yourself where you would like to be, perhaps by the seaside, perhaps having an ice cream, perhaps meeting a friend that you haven't seen for years, maybe meeting somebody who's passed over to the world of spirit. Think about talking to them and being with them just for those few minutes. And that, I promise you, will set you up and it won't stop everything going on around you, but it will give you a feeling of strength. It will give you that inner strength that you need. And those of you who've been through the mill, and most of us have, know how important it is to find that little point of light within yourself that you can think of as the essential you that is not affected by dreadful things that are going on around you. And of course, always finish up your few minutes of reflection and meditation and reading by asking as well for the comfort and healing of all those who are sick and suffering, whether it be in mind, body or spirit, that it may please God to heal them. And always have in mind that, miracles take longer, and, we had that little reading from Kathy about miracles. You have to ask for a miracle, really. I don't know why, but we have to ask. And it's the same thing for getting help from those in the world of spirit, our loved ones. We are expected to ask because they're not allowed to actually come unbidden. And this is something to do with, shall we look at Halloween, which happened last night, All Hallows Eve, a pagan festival hijacked by Christianity, of course. It's supposed to be the one night of the year when spirits walk. And every culture, every religion has always got this one night or one day, Judaism included, where the veil between heaven and earth is supposed to be so thin that people can pass through it and have communication with us. Spiritualism, that's every day and every night. And what is more, we're not frightened of it either, because we know that all these sort of ghoulies and ghosties and spookies and things that go bump in the night are not malevolent. Yes, there are dark forces. We know this. We know there is ill will in the world. Attribute that to what you want. But at the same time, if you are good and you hold on to what you know is goodness and kindness and harmonious living, not having hatred towards your fellow human beings for no reason whatsoever, this is what we are told to practice. And as spiritualists, we like to think of ourselves as Christian spiritualists as like the early Christians, the early followers of Jesus. They were mostly Jews, of course, because it started in Israel, and Jesus himself was a Jew, and all his disciples, apart from one, was a Jew. And St. Paul, who was called Saul before his name was made into the Greek Paul, he was a Jew as well. He was an Orthodox Jew, and you know about Orthodox Jews because there's lots of Jewish things in the news recently, unfortunately, because people have been having goes again. It's called anti-Semitism. This thing about people hating Jews, and again, there's no reason whatsoever. What I always say is this: if you see a gang of Jews in the street, you do not have to worry and walk across the road to avoid them. They're not going to attack you. So that on its own should give you a little bit of comfort. But the fact is this, that we try to follow the teachings of Jesus, who said, love one another and love the Lord your God with all your soul, with all your heart, with all your mind and might. And those words that he's quoting are actually from the Jewish scriptures, and you can find them scattered throughout. But, Moses' law, his prayers that he was given, are the ones that Jesus was actually quoting himself. When he said, when people asked him how they should pray, he said to them, say something like this. And then it was recorded that he said what we now call the Lord's Prayer, the universal prayer. But the main thing is that you should have love in your heart towards your fellow human beings, and of course towards animals and all life on this planet. But at the same time, we have to be understanding that there are terrible things going on, and there are sufferings attached to actually not feeling able to do anything about that. You know, we can't stop having illnesses. We can't stop this virus from attacking us in the same way that I can't stop Rosie or Daisy from scratching on the door there to be let out. They probably had enough of my talk, which probably, oh no, Daisy's coming. Okay, hello Daisy. So the thing is that I was about to say, well, I've probably spoken enough. Oh, good morning to everybody. I'm so sorry, I haven't been looking, got carried away with talking about everything. Yes, good morning to everybody. Well, I suppose it's afternoon now, because the application that I use tells me when it's time to go live, and they say it's show time, which of course, you know, spiritualism isn't a show. It's not some kind of joke. It's not just an entertainment itself, and it certainly isn't an experiment in anything. Because if you ask God for something, that's not experimenting. And that's what we do. And we always ask, if you like, permission to do what we do from the highest, the most high. And I would just like to feel that some of what I've said today has cheered you, that has maybe given you some kind of inspiration to be able to cheer other people in the same way. Because once upon a time, my very good friend and one-time student and minister, Denise Masherpa, who is that bishop down on the south coast there, Worthing, runs a church down there, and she said to me once, you know, well, we should do outreach work. You know, as a church, we should be providing for homeless people and people who are hungry and stuff like that, like some of these other churches. I said, yes, but we do provide for people. We give them spiritual nourishment. We tell them the truth. We give them messages from their loved ones. We show them that spirit communication is real. We show them that life is eternal no matter what. We show them that they are not damned if they don't believe in one thing or another. We show them all those good things. So we are doing good, even if we haven't got the resources to be a homeless shelter or to, you know, to cook food for a load of people. At the same time, as we know, there are many spiritualists who are doing just that within different organisations, civil organisations, that are helping the situation at the moment. And of course, now with this lockdown imminent again, it falls to us again to broadcast where we can, to broadcast our truth, to let people see our mediums demonstrating the truth of survival, demonstrating that people's loved ones are still around, able to help when they're asked, remember. You know, demonstrating the truth of what we know, that everything in the end will be all right. And we have to hold on to that. And we have to make sure that other people know that too. And it's the most important thing that we have to give, which is our knowledge. And we must spread that as much as we can. And when we talk about turning adversity to advantage, we have to say that spiritualism itself, and I know from the amount of people who watch the New Christian Spiritualist Society broadcasts wherever they emanate from, and all our mediums and ministers have been broadcasting away, that it's increased our sort of people who understand and know about us by many thousands, you know. And of course, I must mention that here in Littleport, the Littleport Christian Spiritualists, our leading minister, my bishop, the Right Reverend Nick Brown, has been holding a service in his bedroom, what we call Nick's boudoir, ever since. And we were about to go back to the village hall, which is our usual venue, when this lockdown was announced. So we will still be enjoying the sight and sound of Reverend Nick in his boudoir, hosting our Thursday evening services. And last Thursday evening, as I'm sure you know, it was Kathy and my turn to be the mediums. And we always have a medium. And we were planning to have 3 mediums, 3 ministers this Thursday at the village hall, which is going to be Reverend Nick, Reverend John Ennis, and myself. So we'll have to see what we're going to be doing about that, because I have my own ideas. I think we could do 2 messages each within the service format. And, I could use a little bell to stop it out after 5 minutes. So we could do then 6 5-minute messages, and we could enjoy an uplifting service of prayer, praise and worship, just as we always do. This time again, it's going to be online. I think that's what you call it. So I hope that all of you will join us, and I hope that you've enjoyed speaking with me, or my little talk with you today. And remember, all will be well, and we will get through this, all of us, and we will help other people to get through it as well. That's the most important thing. Tell them about our way of life. Tell them about our spiritualist practices. Nothing wrong with it at all. Read them some cards, give them a nice reading, some messages, do everything you can to lift people's spirits. And I say, God bless to you. It's Sunday, which is a Sabbath day for many. And as spiritualists, we always say our Sabbath is every day. Every day is devoted to peace and harmony, love and light. And so I'll leave you with those thoughts. And may all our loved ones be relieved of their symptoms. If those who are suffering from the COVID-19 virus, we ask specially at this time for them that they be relieved of their symptoms and being given comfort and healing. And we ask all of this in the name of love and light and truth. Amen. I'll speak with you again. And I'm enjoying your comments, and thank you. And speak to you soon.